June 4, 1942. The Pacific War hangs on a single morning. Admiral Chuichi Nagumo's Kido Butai, 4 fleet carriers, the heart of the same force that crippled Pearl Harbor 6 months earlier, is steaming toward Midway Atoll to finish what Pearl Harbor started. 248 aircraft, the most experienced naval aviators on Earth, a plan to draw out the American Pacific Fleet and destroy it in a single decisive battle. Waiting in the empty Pacific, 3 American carriers, Enterprise, Hornet, Yorktown, outnumbered, outgunned, holding the only intelligence advantage in the entire war. The Americans have broken the Japanese naval code. They know roughly where the Kido Butai will be. They have one shot. If they miss, the Pacific War may be lost. History knows what happens next. In 10 critical minutes, around 10:25 a.m., American dive bombers find 3 Japanese carriers with their decks loaded with armed and fueled aircraft. Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, 3 of the 4 Japanese fleet carriers, turn into infernos. Hiryu launches a counterstrike that mortally damages Yorktown. The American carrier sinks 2 days later, taking 141 sailors with her. But let's change one thing. Steaming alongside Spruance and Fletcher's task forces, dwarfing every other ship in the American fleet, is something that shouldn't exist for another 75 years. The USS GERALD R. Ford, a 100,000-ton nuclear aircraft carrier from 2026, carrying 90 aircraft, 5,000 crew, and the most advanced naval combat system ever built. The Ford is not a warship in any sense Nagumo's officers would recognize. It is a floating sovereign nation, at 1,100 feet long, longer than 3 football fields, 2 nuclear reactors that need no refueling for 25 years, top speed above 30 knots in any sea state. Aboard her are F-35C, Lightning II stealth fighters, F/A-18 Super Hornets, EA-18G Growlers for electronic warfare, and E-2D Hawkeye AWACS aircraft that can track every Japanese ship within 400 kilometers and every aircraft within 600. Her defensive systems include evolved Sea Sparrow missiles, RIM-116 rolling airframe missiles, and Phalanx CIWS, a rotary cannon firing 4,500 rounds per minute, specifically designed to destroy anything that gets close. The AN/SPY-3 radar paints a complete picture of the battle space in 3 dimensions, day or night, in any weather. To the Japanese fleet of 1942, the Ford is not a more advanced carrier. It is a god that decided to show up in person. Let's see what they're facing. Nagumo commands the 4 most successful aircraft carriers in the world in June 1942. Akagi and Kaga, the converted battlecruisers that anchored every major Japanese naval operation. Soryu and Hiryu, the purpose-built fleet carriers that proved their worth from Pearl Harbor through the Indian Ocean. 248 combat aircraft, the most experienced naval aviators on Earth, men who have struck targets from Hawaii to Ceylon without losing a single carrier. Their doctrine is the best in the world in 1942. Their Zero fighters can outturn anything the Americans have. Their Type 91 torpedoes have crippled American battleships at Pearl Harbor. Their dive bombers are among the most accurate in any navy, and their command structure is led by men who have spent 6 months winning battle after battle across the Pacific. This is the fleet that ruled the Pacific from December 1941 to May 1942. It is the most dangerous naval force on Earth, but Nagumo does not know about the Ford. Nobody does. The battle begins on June 4th. The Ford launches 2 E-2D Hawkeyes at 4 a.m. By 5:30 a.m., they have mapped every Japanese ship within 400 kilometers. Every carrier, every escort, every transport. Position, course, speed, formation. The data streams back to the Ford in real time. Spruance and Fletcher received the targeting information through a hastily improvised communications channel. The American admirals do not understand the technology. They understand that they suddenly know exactly where Nagumo is and exactly when his strike aircraft will launch. At 7 a.m., Nagumo launches his Midway strike, 108 aircraft heading for the atoll's defenses. The Ford detects every launch, every aircraft tracked from the moment its wheels leave the flight deck. 12 F-35Cs are already airborne, holding at 35,000 feet, invisible to every Japanese sensor. The first strike against the Kido Butai launches at 8:15. The Ford catapults 16 F/A-18E Super Hornets in less than 10 minutes, each carrying two AGM-158C LRASMs, long-range anti-ship missiles with a range of over 500 kilometers. The Super Hornets climb to 30,000 feet and release their missiles from beyond visual range of the Japanese fleet. 32 missiles drop from their pylons, ignite their turbojet engines, and descend to wave-top altitude. The LRASMs fly toward the Japanese carriers on inertial guidance, with their onboard infrared imaging seekers handling terminal targeting. GPS does not exist in 1942. It is not needed. Each missile finds its target through its own onboard sensors, identifying ship silhouettes against the open ocean and selecting the largest contacts. The Japanese see nothing until impact. Akagi takes the first missile amidships at 8:32. The 1,000-pound warhead penetrates her hangar deck, where her aircraft are being armed and fueled for the second strike, and detonates. Akagi does not just take damage. She tears herself apart from the inside as her own ordnance cooks off in chain reactions. Kaga takes 2 missiles in the next 90 seconds. Soryu burns from a single hit that ignites her fuel lines. 3 of 4 Japanese carriers are out of action by 8:40. Nagumo is on Akagi's bridge, watching his fleet burn, when his communications officer informs him that they have no idea where the attack is coming from. Hiryu launches her counterstrike anyway. 18 dive bombers and 10 torpedo bombers, plus fighter escort, sent toward where Hiryu's scouts believe the American carriers must be. In actual history, this strike found the Yorktown and crippled her in 2 attack runs. The Yorktown was abandoned, taken under tow, and sunk by a Japanese submarine 2 days later. The strike never reaches Yorktown. The F-35Cs holding at altitude detect the inbound Japanese formation at 200 kilometers. They engage with AIM-120 AMRAAM missiles, beyond visual range air-to-air missiles that the Japanese pilots cannot detect, cannot evade, and cannot fight back against. 18 Japanese aircraft are destroyed in the first 3 minutes of the engagement. The survivors break formation. Some try to press the attack, looking for American carriers they cannot find. They are picked off one by one. Not a single Japanese aircraft reaches the American task force. Hiryu herself takes a follow-up strike at 11:42. 418E Super Hornets drop GBU-31 JDAMs, 2,000-pound precision-guided bombs, through her flight deck. She sinks within 4 hours. The Ford has not been touched. Not one Japanese aircraft has detected the modern carrier. Not one Japanese ship has come within 200 kilometers of her. But the Ford is not omnipotent. While the F-35Cs intercept the Hiryu counterstrike aimed at the American carriers, Nagumo's 108 aircraft Midway strike has already reached the atoll itself. Midway's defenders, the Marines and Navy personnel on the island, still take losses. The modern carrier cannot be everywhere simultaneously. The atoll's anti-aircraft batteries fire back. Some Japanese aircraft are shot down. Some American aircraft on Midway are destroyed on the ground. Casualties on Midway are reduced from historical levels by faster intelligence and better coordination, but they are not zero. Even at full strength, one modern carrier cannot occupy islands, cannot garrison Midway, cannot capture Tokyo. The Japanese Empire still has 9 more carriers, hundreds of warships, and millions of soldiers across the Pacific and East Asia. The Ford answers a tactical question. The strategic question, what happens to the Pacific War after this battle, still belongs to the American fleet of 1942. The Ford carries enough firepower for this battle. She does not carry enough for the rest of the Pacific War. By dusk, the Kido Butai has ceased to exist as a fighting force. All 4 Japanese fleet carriers are sunk or burning. Approximately 3,000 Japanese sailors and aviators are dead, including most of the irreplaceable elite aircrews. The most experienced naval aviation force in the world has been annihilated in less than 12 hours. The American task forces have taken 0 casualties at sea. The Yorktown does not sink. She returns to Pearl Harbor for repairs and is back in Pacific waters by August in 1942, in time for the Solomons campaign that historically cost America 2 more fleet carriers. Saving the Yorktown saves not just her crew, but thousands of American sailors who will fight at Guadalcanal, Santa Cruz, and the battles to come. Japanese survivors return to Tokyo carrying a story their commanders cannot accept. A black ship that struck without warning, weapons that hit before they could be seen, an enemy that never showed itself. The Pacific War will continue because Japan does not surrender. But the strategic momentum that shifted at Midway in real history shifts faster and harder in this scenario. The fleet that ruled the Pacific from December 1941 to May 1942 ends at the bottom of the Pacific in June 1942, and the Yorktown, the ship that was supposed to die, comes home.